did one of his shows up without warning weekends. I'm now living in an apartment off campus with another friend of ours named Chris. And we all know that we're in role play all weekend.
With Chris? Ugh.
He wasn't quite as disheveled as when you met him.
Oh.
This was pretty early on.
He was on his way to where he ended up, for sure. It wasn't quite there yet. But anyway, I'm sleeping because I just worked thirds.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a tap on the bedroom door, and I get up, and it's Paul. And I walk out and close the door because, like, Chris is in there sleeping. There's 2 other people sleeping in various places because they all came. Paul often brought people with him when he came. And we stepped outside, and I could tell Paul was keyed up, but I didn't have any idea why. And, or no, it wasn't Paul, it was Chris. Chris tapped on the door, and I opened the door, and I see Chris, and I'm like, and he's like, come here, and he takes me outside, but he's teed up. And so I'm like, what's going on? And I didn't really know this happened because I wasn't there, but apparently when Chris went to get in his car to go to work thirds, his car wouldn't start. And he asked Paul, can I borrow your car just to drive back and forth to work? Have you heard this story, or
No.
you're just anticipating
No.
that? And Paul said yes, and he did that. And on his way home from work, he got in a car accident.
Of course.
And so he's telling me, so I'm like, what's going on? He said, I totaled Paul's car, which at first I went, what are you doing in Paul's car? Because I didn't know about, this was not a big deal when Chris said, can I borrow it? And he said, yeah, you know, it just happened as the day it unfolded. And I go, how bad is it? And we went out and looked at it. And as we're walking back to the apartment, I'm like, well, obviously you need to tell him. And he's like, yeah, I know. I'm afraid he'll lose his temper and we'll get in a fight. And I said, I don't think, I was about to say, I don't think Paul would hurt you over this. I was about to say. But before I got that out, he said, I'm not worried about me getting hurt because I'm like twice the size of him. Chris was a big guy. But I'm afraid in the process of just defending myself, I'll hurt Paul. And I went, well, let me tell you something. You might win the fight, but you will be injured in such a way that you will never be the same again. Because Paul fights for keeps. And he may be short, but he has other stats, and he knows how to use them. And in my mind, I'm thinking, and Paul has been in many real-life fights, and you have been in none. You know, you took karate in high school, and you probably have that false sense of ability that people who take karate have. But Paul, you know, has been in fights with drug dealers and stuff, you know, real fights. And he said, really? And I said, oh yeah, we don't want this to go to a fight because then I'm going to be in the hospital all day with you. And I laid it on thick enough that it changed his attitude about how that fight would go down and made him much more compliant. He really didn't want to get in a fight now. And to his credit, Paul did not get in a fight with Chris. I still was like ready to go. I was like, Paul may lose his temper and go off on Chris, and how am I going to handle that? And especially because Chris deserves to be gone off on. You know, do I let one of my friends beat up another friend even if they deserve it? And you know, I was still trying to calculate that out as the two of them were talking, and then going out and looking at how badly he wrecked the car. And but Paul didn't. I mean, Paul was obviously really angry because he knew Chris well enough to know that this happened because Chris is really not good at responsibility, and he was in the early stages of his drug career. So it was a safe assumption he was not straight driving home in that car. And
When he had run a stoplight and got hit, that's what had happened.
yep. And so that's a memory I had of Chris being all like, I don't want to hurt Paul, and me being, oh, that's not what you should be afraid of.